Recently, I made a video talking about horror and otherwise non-horrifying video games, or as I called it, accidental horror in gaming. In that video, I went out of my way and mentioned a game called Subnautica. As far as I'm aware, Subnautica is just a survival game with horror elements, therefore it would be horror and otherwise non-horrifying video games, but no. The entire comment section decided to disagree with me, and you know what? That's fine, because now, I get to make a video on Subnautica, let's fucking go! Yeah, if it wasn't obvious, Subnautica is easily one of my favorite games I've played in the past year or so. So believe me, I am all too happy to start discussing this game and what's so great about it. But in today's specific video, I just want to talk about the horror elements that thrive within Subnautica. Because believe it or not, despite what people may tell you, Subnautica is a horror game. And it's a real damn shame that nobody tells you that just at all. You'll figure it out though, trust me, you will figure it out. And while there's a lot of things in this game that you should 100% be afraid of, today I just want to talk about some of the things that I experienced on my first playthrough and maybe explain what's so horrifying about them. As for everything else, they might get a video dedicated to them later on. I might do what I did for Spookies and just make a whole video talking about what's terrifying, but for now, fuck them. But yeah, that's about it. Let's just get into this real quick before I start losing my spark. Like most survival games, Subnautica starts a lot like others. You land in an unknown area with no tools, no gadgets, and just a few days worth of food and water to get you through. As soon as you get in, experienced players would tell you a couple things right off the bat. Make sure you get a steady supply of food, make sure you make a knife, make sure you get some water, and make sure you find your scanner. After that, the whole purpose of the game is to wander around the island, slowly finding upgrades, and eventually building your way up the tech tree. Now, in order to do that, you need to find fragments of technology that were aboard the ship you crashed on, or as I will continue to refer to it as, the Aurora. This is where the first element of horror comes into play. You see, new players won't immediately know where this technology is, but what they will know is there's a radio inside their lifeboat, and occasionally the radio will kick on. If this happens, you will hear words of the survivors that will explain the gravity of their situation, telling you that they desperately need help and to send backup as soon as physically possible. You, being the only person that immediately knows their location, is sent a signal and told to go. Upon arriving, you will find that the survivor pod is empty and that nobody was ever here to begin with. You were too late. However, the more you play the game, the more likely you are to realize that there are in fact other survivors, there are other life pods, and more people you need to go and save. And, well, let's just say the game isn't too nice about where they put them. You'll find yourself going deeper and deeper into the ocean, trailing down to places where light itself doesn't even reach. The only light coming from the head of your sea moth, which very vaguely lights up small areas in front of you. The beautiful pinks and blues and greens begin to fade away into darker shades of blue and black, and who could forget the absolutely lovely shades of red, a color which becomes very prominent because this specific life pod, also known as Life Pod 2, sunk all the way down to the bottom of the blood kelp zone. This area. Oh, fuck. I'm not even gonna try and sugarcoat it. I am terrified of this place. I guess we should start with the obvious. This whole entire region, this sub-portion of the map, just looks creepy. It's an entire biome made of weird color combinations of black and light blue, accented by clobs of red, which is known as blood oil. It houses some of the most horrifying wildlife, but we'll have to get back to that later. And then there's entire bunches of dead, white, decaying tree roots slithering throughout the entire location. And then there's the music. I'll be playing it in the background now, but it does not do this area any favors. It truly makes you feel like you're playing a horror game. But remember how I was talking about the wildlife? Yeah, well, this right here, this is a crab squid. I don't need to say anything else. It's fucking horrifying. And this right here, this is a shock eel. You know, it's a combination of a shark and an electric eel that just destroys your ship with excreting electricity. Oh no, but that's not good enough. No, of course not, because we also have to have warpers. If by some ungodly reason you are not horrified of this creature, well, here's a fun fact for you. It will jump scare you randomly and teleport you out of your ship, leaving you vulnerable to all the other wildlife I mentioned. Which brings me to the final creature of this area. You remember the Reaper Leviathan, right? If not, don't worry, we'll talk about him later, but let's just put it like this. The Reaper Leviathan is 118 meters long, okay? That's pretty big. That's pretty big, you know, its eyeball is about the size of me. But what if I told you that this thing's babies are bigger than it? And what if I told you that they have a daddy? Well, allow me to introduce you to the fully grown Ghost Leviathan. This thing is absolutely mortifying. Its body is made up of a single bone-like structure that allows it to flow swiftly throughout the water, and then the outer membrane glows a violent, bright blue. That means that if it's not nighttime, you cannot see this thing. All you will be able to make out is that very small bone structure inside of its body, and trust me, that doesn't do justice for how big this fucking thing is. Oh, and how could I forget the best part? This thing, randomly, will patrol the entire dead kelp zone. Not only that, if it does see you, it won't immediately attack you. Instead, it'll opt to stalk you, silently. It'll only make a sound once it's actively charging you, and that sound, yeah, it sounds like a human scream. Oh yeah, but how could I forget literally the best part? It's double the size of a Reaper Leviathan. So yeah, fuck you, Abandoned Life Pod 2 for taking me here. I'm gonna leave. So here we are, back at my beautiful little place of comfort, or as I call it, Soul's Nut Shack. It's a nice little place, and you know, some might say it's a little bit small, but I like to think it's average sized. But that's irrelevant. My favorite part of this house is currently where it's positioned. As you can see here, I have it nice and neatly laid out over the edge of a walking cliff. And I'm sure some of you who haven't played Subnautica are thinking, why would I do that? Well, it's because I occasionally get visits from that guy.
That is terrifying.
Oh. You're recording this, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, that's some nice footage right there.
Yeah, he's pretty big. That, my dear ladies and gentlemen, is a Reaper Leviathan. And I made special mention of him in my last Subnautica video, but I will be damned if I don't mention him again. You see, the Reaper Leviathan, unlike the other Leviathans in the game, is actually a fairly early threat. While all of the other Leviathans, like the Sea Dragon, the Ghost Leviathan, the Sea Treaders, and the Reefbacks, the Reaper Leviathan can be found in giant clumps pretty close to where you are spawning. Roughly 500 meters or so, something along those lines. And it's actually highly likely that you as a new player will probably go here very early on and not even realize what the hell's up, or at least not yet. Very early on in the video, I made mention to claim that you need to go out of your way to find things to scan in order to move up the tech tree while you play through Subnautica. Well, as it turns out, most of the things that fell out of the ship that'll be immediately useful to you early on in your playthrough can be located directly by the crash site. And what does that mean? Well, it means you'll be paid a visit from Mr. Hugs over there. You see, it's part of the main storyline to come here pretty much as soon as the ship blows up, and the second it does, you are introduced to Mr. Hugs version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's right, 7. There's 7 of them here. And each one is able to eat you in a grand total of 2 bites. And I'm sure you're wondering why I call them Mr. Hugs, right? Yeah, well, as it would turn out, if one of them managed to get their claws, or I guess the mandibles is the proper term, all over your sea truck, then they're gonna not play very nice. Yeah, I've seen all I needed to see. These things are horrifying. I am not a big fan of them. Though I've played the game for roughly 40 hours, that fear has very minimally gone away. It's pretty much still completely there. As a matter of fact, the other day, while I was getting footage for this specific video, I was grinding resources, and while I was grinding resources, I stranded pretty far from my home, eventually working my way into a little bit of a mushroom biome. Apparently, there's a cluster of 5 Reaper Leviathans that lurk not far from a mushroom biome, and I didn't know that. So as you can see in this background footage here, I'm just lurking around, big chilling, not really understanding the gravity of the situation I'm in, hopping out of my sea moth, repairing it multiple times, grabbing resources, the works. And then, as I'm exploring, right there, see it? right there. Reaper. Didn't know. I was completely oblivious. And I had my volume turned down pretty low so I didn't hear the screams from the distance. But at this point, it sees me, it's chasing me. I don't know that. I'm oblivious. I think that I'm safe. Newsflash, I wasn't safe. Every single time after that I heard any slight sound, I was turning around left, right, and center trying to see if anything was chasing me, and more often than not it wasn't. But that's the entire purpose of the Reaper Leviathan. The whole purpose of a Reaper Leviathan is to be its first introduction into the world to tell you, hey, you're not safe here, because up until this point, pretty much everything you see in the world of Subnautica is not going to go out of its way to attack you. The Reaper Leviathan is the very first thing you will see that will not only attack you, but will actively aggro to your location and try its best to take you out of the picture. And from then on, everything else you see that is even slightly the size of the Reaper will strike fear into your heart, because I don't know if that's another Reaper. I mean, yeah, sure, there's the Reefback Leviathan, which is pretty friendly, but that was the only thing I saw. The other one could eat me in one bite, and that's the whole point. It's supposed to put a permanent sense of dread in your heart. And then from there, for the rest of your time playing the game, chances are you will forever fear Reapers. You will go out of your way to avoid them. If you hear their scream, immediately you are put into fight or flight mode. You are put into the, how the actual ever-living fuck do I get myself out of this situation without getting my butthole diddled by a Reaper? And I can respect that, because I truly do love the Reaper as a horror enthusiast. I just am a massive pansy, and I don't want to have to deal with it very often, but I'm sure it's that type of morbid appreciation for them that we can all somewhat relate to. And if not, well, that's fair, I guess. Not all of us can appreciate giant teeth and mandibles like I can. But with that all being said, let's go ahead and move on to the final stop in my Subnautica journey here. The Reaper Express.
The Reaper Express.
Hey, I'm back, bro.
No, it's again.
Oh god, oh god.
He's flying.
We're flying.
Flying. Yeah, he's still on him.
Wait, is he dead?
Wait, he died?
He's dead.
He died.
Yeah.
You know, for as much horror as there is in Subnautica, one thing you have to really give it credit for is its beautiful landscapes, ranging from the absolute beautiful shallow depths all the way down to the disturbingly horrifying blood kelp forest which I discussed earlier. However, what would happen if you added the beauty of the safe shallows, the absolute anxiety of being attacked by a Reaper Leviathan, and the horrifying nature of dealing with the blood kelp forest? Well then, you would get easily my least favorite biome in the game, the Jelly Shroom Caves. Upon immediate entry into the zone, you would be remiss to consider it not that much of a threat. After all, it reminds you a lot of the Safe Shallows in the terms of its beautiful glory. However, taking the time to consider this place as anything less than a threat is a fatal error. You see, within each of those beautiful purple mushrooms there is something absolutely mortifying waiting below. And that is because this is where the horrifying crab snakes decided they wanted to nest. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what do you mean nest? I don't see anything there. Yeah, well, you're not supposed to, but let's just break it down for you. Inside each of those mushrooms there lives a creature called a crab snake, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a massive snake-like serpent thing that has these weird crab-like mandibles on its mouth. And guess what? Not only is it incredibly territorial, it is also insanely hostile. And that is because it is spending its day protecting its babies. Oh, how precious, you might be saying, but you might want to take a time to remember that most animals that are busy protecting their eggs aren't very keen on dealing with us. And the crab snakes are no different. If you come near their nest, which just so happen to be planted in every single one of these purple mushrooms around the area, there is a chance that one of them will jump out, grab you, and eat you. You will have literally no idea which one of these mushrooms is currently occupied by a crab snake until you get close enough to realize. It is a massive tread of pure anxiety, not realizing oh well, is walking near here gonna get me killed or not? Because you don't know. And you won't know until either you get grabbed, or you hear the chomp of their snappers as they just barely miss you. And it's that level of anxiety that makes me really horrified of this area. Match that up with the weird, eerie music that plays throughout the entire location, and the just 100% necessary addition of a ruined survival shelter, meaning that at some point in the past, people lived down here willingly for some reason. It just makes this overall ominous area that I've only ever returned to once, and that was to record background footage for this specific section. But hey, if you don't believe anything I've said in this video, then by all means, I encourage you to go play the game, because this game is terrifying, and I left out a lot of things like the Lost River, the sea dragons, the sea treaders, and what have you. But that all being said, that's pretty much the video for today. Go ahead and do me a favor, like it if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. If you really like me, go ahead and subscribe, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Who knows, I might make a continuation of this video in the future where I talk about some of the other things in the game, but as it currently stands, this was just something quick I needed to get out because I have finals next week and I will be extremely busy. But yeah, that's about it. One more thing, a lot of people say I sound like Kermit. To those people, I don't think you know what Kermit sounds like. And to the other people who are wondering if this is my real voice, the answer is no.
This is my real voice. So, that's about it. I'll see y'all in the next video. Stay safe, everyone, and peace, peace.